So we just finished up social studies time together, which means now you're watching this video so that you can do the actual assignments. So hopefully it's becoming kind of a routine, right? So you know that we go into our social studies Google Classroom, like the one I'm in right now. So make sure you're in yours. And then I go to the classwork section. This is where all of what I need will be. So you know we have our notebook right here. It's always at the top. We'll be writing in our notebook almost every time. And then the videos are here. When I'm done with this video, I'll post it at the top here. I'm also going to put it into today for Friday so that you can definitely find it. So last time we talked about the first people and kind of how they got here. We'll be talking more about that today. And we'll be talking about 3 specific tribes that came here using the Bering Strait, using the Bering Land Bridge, like we talked about last time. So there are 3 main tribes, and we need to know where they lived. So we're going to be looking at maps and understanding the where they were. So first of all, let's look into what we're doing. We've got our reading right here. We've got a map we're going to look at, and then we've got our exit ticket. No Edpuzzle today, no video today. And then, of course, the Quizlet if you wanted to do that, if you had some extra time. So we're going to dive in and click on our reading. We've got 2 pages. So this is the first page. I'll click there. It opens up. So we're going to be reading through this, have how we've been doing. But before we get started, I want to make sure I have my notebook open. So I click on my notebook, and you guys should be able to open yours up. I open mine up here. And as a reminder, you should have 3 things done in your notebook, right? You've got your natural resources thinking map or circle map, which is explained in the natural resources video. You've got your definitions of climate and vegetation, which were in the landforms, climate, and vegetation video. And then you have your flow map of the first people coming to the Americas. This was explained in the first people video. All 3 of those should be done and turned in. If they're not, you right now don't have credit for them. So make sure you get them done soon. So I'm going to keep this open in one tab, and then I'm going to be going over to my reading in my other tab. So Friday, which is today, reading right here, the first one. So I'm going to be going through my reading and filling out my thinking maps, also called my social studies notebook. Okay, so we'll start our reading here in just a sec, but I want to click over to our notebook. Today we'll be using the tree map for classifying. So go into your notebook here, click on the page that you need to make a copy of. So click here, go on to this page, and go up to edit and do copy. This way of making a copy of a page works on every type of device, so this works on yours. So again, click on the classifying, and then go into here, edit, and go down to copy. And then you would have to do edit again and do paste. And then there's 2. You can do it an even quicker way is to just click on it, go to edit, and do duplicate. That would also make another one, but you have to be clicked on the slide. Edit, duplicate. So you only need 1 extra, so I'm going to get rid of that one I was doing for practice, but I should have 2 right there. I drag my copy one down to the bottom, and this is where I'll be doing my work. So I am prepared. If you're not with me, just push pause and get that part done before you keep moving on. So again, made a copy or a duplicate of the tree map for classifying our environments here. So the word or concept would be we'll do indigenous people environments. Okay. So mine was a little too long, so I'm going to stretch this longer so it'll fit on that line. There we go. So the indigenous peoples' environments. Okay, so indigenous peoples' environments, that's what we're going to be talking about here in our reading. So I have mine started, so I would have yours started too, so you can kind of go back and forth with me. Alrighty, so I'm going back to my reading and I'm going to start reading. So we're reading sections 2.4 and 2.5. Okay, here we go. It says, in the hundreds of years following the last ice age, groups of Native Americans eventually stopped migrating and settled in different areas. I'm going to stop already. That's what we talked about last class. Remember, they migrated kind of as the ice age was ending, and then they learned how to farm when those large animals were dying, and so that they could have settlements and have villages. Okay. During this time, changes in climate, weather, created many kinds of natural environments in North America. A natural environment is everything that surrounds us. It includes such things as sunlight, air, water, land, animals, insects, and plants. Different environments have different climates and plant life, called vegetation. Every environment also has its own natural resources. Natural resources are things that help to support life. They include features of the land such as mountains and rivers, as well as useful materials like timber from trees and minerals such as copper. They also include everything that people and animals use for food. I'm going to stop again. So those terms should be familiar, right? We talked about vegetation, which is the plants of an area, and we've talked about climate, which is weather over a long period of time. And we talked about natural resources too. So hopefully these things feel and sound familiar. Okay, moving on. As Native Americans spread across North America, they settled in many types of natural environments. Look at the 4 natural environments pictured below. What do these images tell you about each environment's climate, vegetation, and natural resources? So take a sec to actually look at those. Look at the grasslands. Think about what vegetation, what plants of the area do you see there? What do you think the climate is like? What natural resources would be available? Now pause me and do the same with the desert, mountain, and Arctic. Take a second to really think about it, to understand what life would have been like before we have all the things that we have now, right? They just kind of had some basic tools and the materials that you could find in nature. So what would it have been like to live there? Pause me and think about it. One environment Native Americans settled in was the grasslands. Most grasslands in North America get only enough rain to support grass and small bushes. Okay, so we're going to go over to our thinking map, to our notebook, and we're going to put in the word grasslands. Oops. I'm going to stretch mine longer because I think it looks nicer. And we're going to write in the things that they told us. They said the grasslands are in North America, so I'm going to include that and get enough rain to support grass and small bushes. Oops. So I go here. There is not a text box, so I have to click on the text box up here and click where I want it. Okay, so I'm going to write in North America. And we said like small amounts of rain. I'll put little rain, just enough for grass and bushes to grow. So mine doesn't look great, right? So I'm going to resize this so that it fits on my line a little bit better. And it's okay if yours kind of runs over it. I can still read it. I know it's tricky since we're doing it virtual, so don't worry too much about that. I might move mine up just a little so it's a little bit easier to read. But I can read it if you have it typed in there. So North America we noted, and little rain, just enough for grass and bushes to grow. Okay. All right. The second type of environment Native Americans settled in was the deserts. Deserts get very little rain. People living in desert areas must often dig wells and ditches to get enough water for drinking and raising crops. So now I'm going to go back over here and put in that information. So deserts. And we said very little rain. So I'll get another text box. So remember, click the T, click about where you want it to go. You'll probably have to move it a little, but you can just click it and drag it to move it. And then I'd say very little rain. If I want, I can do a separate text box for the next one if I think it looks nicer. It's up to you. And we said, the reading said, had to dig wells. And I forget what else. What did it say? Wells and ditches for water for drinking and crops. Okay. Had to dig wells and ditches to collect water for drinking and crops. Okay. So again, I got to resize mine so it fits on my line there. And it's okay if it goes down. I can still read it. Don't worry about it. So had to dig wells for ditches to collect water for drinking and crops. Okay, I'm going to keep on reading. A third environment Native Americans settled in was the mountains. The mountains of North America received lots of rain and snow. The lower part of mountains are often covered by forests of pine, fir, and spruce trees. All right, so I'm going to organize that information onto my thinking map. Mountains. And then I'm going to do a new text box for this section. And then I have to remember what it said, right? That's kind of the tricky part. It says they received lots of rain and snow. So I'll start with that. Lots of rain and snow. Going back, looking through, the bottom part is often covered by forests. Okay, oops. And the bottom of mountains are often covered by forests. Okay, gonna resize it so it fits a little bit better. So lots of rain and snow. The bottom of mountains are often covered by forests. Okay, so now I'm gonna keep on reading. A fourth environment settled by Native Americans was the ice fields of the Arctic. Near the North Pole, the Arctic is made up of huge ice sheets that permanently cover the land. So our chart is full here, and we're going to leave it like this because the Native Americans that we focus on are not the ones that lived in the Arctic. So we'll just absorb that info instead of organize it. I'm going to read it one more time, though, just so we understand that last one. A fourth environment settled by Native Americans was the ice fields of the Arctic. Near the North Pole, the Arctic is made up of huge ice sheets that permanently cover the land. Got it. Most Native Americans chose to settle in areas that had the most natural resources. These environments had mild climates and plenty of food and water. Fewer people chose to live in areas where there were fewer resources to support life, such as the desert environment of the Southwest and the icy environment of the Arctic. Okay, so that makes sense, right? Like if you were an indigenous person moving here, you'd want to go where you could more easily get food and the temperatures were more mild so that you could live comfortably. So makes sense. We'll go on to our next page and how Native Americans adapted to the environment. So this is just for reading. We won't really be putting anything in our notes, so please just be listening. Native Americans had to adapt their way of life to their surroundings. Each group had to find ways to use the available natural resources wisely so that it could survive in its particular environment. One group that lived in a very harsh environment was the Inuit, who are also known as Eskimos. Like many Native Americans, the Inuit called themselves by a name that means the people. The Inuit lived in northwestern Alaska, northern Canada, and Greenland, places that are part of the Arctic. The Arctic ice fields are a place of long, cold winters and land that is frozen most of the year. The Inuit had to make special adaptations to their harsh environment. They hunted animals such as whales, walruses, seals, salmon, caribou, polar bears, Arctic foxes, squirrels, and birds. The Inuit did not waste any part of the animals they captured. They ate the meat, they sewed the animal skins together to make clothing, blankets, and tents. They burned animal fat for fuel. They used bones to make dog sleds and tent frames. They also carved bones into tools such as knives and harpoons, which are long spears. The Inuit even learned to fill sealskins with air so that they would float. It's amazing. They attached the skins to walruses or whales that they had harpooned. These floats helped to tire out the animals when they tried to escape by diving underwater. To build shelters, the Inuit used the materials that they found around them. In the summer, they made tents by stretching the skins of caribou over seals over driftwood. Sometimes they placed heavy stones or pieces of bone at the bottom of a tent to keep it in place. In the winter, they built houses called igloos out of snow and ice. To keep warm, the Inuit dressed in animal skins and furs. To protect their eyes from the bright glare of the sun shining on the snow and ice, they made snow goggles. Snow goggles were made from bone or wood and had narrow openings to look through. The Inuit spread black soot, ashes from fire, on the inside to keep light from shining in their eyes. Okay, so that's the end of our reading, but as I was reading, I hope that you were really picturing it, maybe looking at that picture as I was reading to just understand how resourceful the Indigenous people were. They used every single part of an animal to help them better survive. So when they lived in the Arctic, the sun is so bright on that snow, they thought of a way to make goggles, which is just incredible. So be thinking of how resourceful those groups of people were. Also be looking around our page. You can pause me to explore a little bit more, but you can, if you don't know what adaptations are, you can look here or driftwood here. And there's just more to explore on our pages. So please feel free to do that. Your notebook is done once you have these items in it: grasslands, deserts, mountains. Yours can be exactly like mine if you want it to be, or you can include some other things if you thought other things were also important. So looking back into our schedule here, into our classwork, we just looked at the reading. We did our notebook, which is up here. Oops, excuse me. And sorry, there we go. And now we're going to glance at this. So this is just a little picture here. So we're going to go into our map and open it up. This is what your exit ticket includes. You have to know where these tribes lived. So take a moment to examine and study this map to know that the Northwest Coastal are here, the Inuit are up here, California, Southwest, Plains, and Eastern Woodlands. In our class together, we're going to focus on the Southwest Indians, the Northwest Indians, not just the coastal, but this whole area more, goes down into the California a little, and the Eastern Woodlands. Those are the three that we focus on in 5th grade, and that's who we'll be talking about for the next 3 classes. Also included a picture of the Bering Land Bridge, just so you could understand kind of how people came from Asia on this land bridge and then moved down into the Americas. So you can kind of get a visual of how the people originally came here. So take time to look at that because this is very important for your exit ticket today. And that leads us to our last step, is your exit ticket. So you're going to click it here, open it here, and identify them. So on the match, which tribe lived in the red area? So you need to tell me out of these, which one was it? You're doing the same for the yellow area. If you can't remember, you have a map. So you can use that to get the correct answers. But try to also remember, because you will need to know where our Southwest, Northwest, and Eastern Woodland tribes lived on your social studies test that we'll take after we learn about the Indigenous people. So those are your things for today. You're reading with me while filling out your map right here. And then you're studying the map that I just showed you so that you can be successful on your exit ticket. So also, of course, the bonus Quizlet. Those are your main things. Remember, the video will be posted here at the top when I'm done with it, as well as up here. And your notebook is always at the top since we use that every class, almost every class. All right, you know you can visit me during my office hours on Monday and Thursday from 1 to 2. The link is in the agenda that is in your classwork section of your homeroom Google Classroom. All right, good luck.